here for LowKick, mate. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Jack Shaw, who fights on March 19th at UFC London. How's it going, Jack?
Yeah, it's all good, mate. Thank you. All good.
It's been a little bit of a while since we've seen you last in there. How have you been enjoying the time off? Obviously, we've had Christmas and New Year. How'd all that go?
Yeah, good. Obviously, I was injured just before the New Year from the last fight, so I had a bit of time to recover. Healed up then just before Christmas, but it was nice to have some time with the family and the friends. Obviously, I was still in the gym, but it was nice to just have that little bit of downtime where you're not worried about a fight or a potential fight date, and be able to unwind and relax and enjoy life a little bit.
Great, and obviously now we're fully back in camp. Injury feeling 100% now. Yeah,
mate. Touch wood. No niggles, no sort of. Obviously, I've gone into camp now the last 2 weeks, so we've been sparring hard on certain days, resting hard, and there's been no sort of twinges, no niggles, which is good. Obviously, I felt good before Christmas, but obviously I wouldn't do nothing too heavy, just light stuff. So to go in now and put under a bit of strain and it feels strong is it's a credit to my physio.
And what is it now? It's like 8 to 9 weeks out from the fight. So in terms of the camp itself, is it kind of just ticking into gear, or is it into the really hard stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much full on now. I know a lot of people sort of like a 6-8 week camp. I'm a little bit different. I prefer to go a little bit longer. I like to do about 10 weeks. So I think it was 11 weeks from Christmas was the fight. So obviously I had a week to sort of ease myself into training and then full in. So yeah, I feel good, to be honest. I'm the sparring's hard. Obviously you have tough days in the gym, especially when you're sparring good boys. But it's nice to just be back into the flow of it. Nice to be back where the sessions mean something. Not just taking over. I want to turn up and I want to win the rounds and I want to feel sharp. And the beauty of fight camp is when you do it a little bit longer, you can feel yourself getting better and stronger and fitter as the weeks go on.
Good, man. And just before we move on to what's next for you, just take a minute to reflect on 2021. As far as LowKick MMA concerned, it was a great year for you. You were our prospect of the year. How do you reflect on 2021?
Yeah, it was a good year. Like, I mean, two wins in the UFC. I would have been nice to get one more fight in, but obviously the injuries shut that one down. But yeah, I mean, overall, good year. I can't complain at 2 wins. I had a good year. The gym had a good year as well. All my boys and my teammates were doing really well. Good year outside of the cage, the family and stuff like that. I had a bit of a tough finish to the end of the year in my personal life. Lost a close friend and lost my grandmother just after Christmas. But in terms of in the cage, I can't complain. It was we're still on the right path. We're still moving in the right direction, and we set some good foundations to build on now this year.
Sorry to hear about them losses, mate. And
yeah, no worries, mate.
We'll just speak about just before we get on to your next fight. You've been trying to nail down a fight with a couple of Nurmagomedovs for a little while now. So I think it was first it was said, then it was Umar. What's going on with these guys? Why don't they want to get in there with you?
I'm not sure, mate. I did a Twitter space the other day and we had a little bit of laugh and a joke, and people were saying to me, why do you think, why do they keep pulling out? And I said, I don't know, maybe like how everyone's nervous about having Khabib in the opposite corner. Maybe the Nurmagomedovs and nervous about having Richard Shaw and Carl Parker in the opposing corner. But I think it's just one of them ones. Currently where we are in the world with visas and obviously injuries happening in the sport. I'm sure I'll meet either of those two down the line. They're both good prospects as well. So I'm sure, although we haven't met yet, we will meet in the future.
Good. And luckily with the UFC, when one person drops out, there's always someone else to pop in.
Yeah, always.
You found that out in your last fight on a few days' notice. This time a little bit more notice. Timur Valiev. What you make of him as an opponent?
Yeah, and again, and we've gone from like one very good up-and-coming guy in Umar to another in Timur. So very good striker, very good grappler. He's good all rounder, to be honest. Comes from a very good gym. I know he trains with Frankie and Mark Henry, so he's going to be game. And he's going to try and come and spoil the party, spoil the hometown crowd. But I'm very confident in the fight. I've had a little look at him. I will obviously look at him in more depth now as we get a little bit deeper into camp. But it's a tough fight, obviously toughest test to date, and that just seems to be how it goes these days. Every fight seems to be bigger than the last, but it's one I'm confident in, and confident I can get the show how good I am. So I feel like the better the guy you put me in there with, the better I'll perform. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
He's definitely a good guy. He's got a couple of good wins, Martin Day and Barcelos, who had a lot of hype around him for a second. When it comes to, scouting opponents and studying tape and things like that, is that something you take a big part in, or is it something you leave to your coaches and kind of just take their advice based off of that?
Yeah, I mean, I will obviously watch footage and see if I can pick up on a few things myself. But my two main coaches, like my old man, obviously, and Carl, I just let them do the initial read, let them see what they can pick up on, work a few things, and then I'll have a little look, see if I can add anything to it. But I got full faith in the coaching team and my training partners. So if they're telling me that he does something well or something not so well, then that's the route I'm going to go down. But I do like to look but again, I have that many pullouts. I try not to come up with this full game plan that just revolves around my opponent's strengths and weaknesses. I think sometimes you just gotta go out there and fight sometimes, and it's handy to know all that. But at the same time, with pullouts and COVID and injuries, you could be fighting someone completely different on a day's notice, as I know all too well. So I do try and just focus on myself and get myself sharp and ready. But at the same time, it is nice to have the old head sort of analysing and breaking down the best route to victory.
Absolutely, and touch wood, he is the guy you're facing on March 19th.
Yeah, touch wood.
And I know it's quite early into camp, but what are the strengths and weaknesses you're seeing in Valiev? How do you see yourself, getting the win in this fight?
I don't think he's got any real major flaws. He's a very good striker, but he's one of those guys. He likes his kicks. He likes his spin kicks, his rear leg kicks, and he's flighty. He's in and out. He's looking to score points, but he's not one of those guys that is coming loading up and trying to put you out with shots. So I think with a bit of pressure, stay in his face a little bit and sort of maybe just not give him that range to throw those kicks that he likes to throw is also going to go in my favour. But I mean, he is good all round. It's not as simple these days as just saying, look, he's a striker, so I'll take him down, or he's a grappler, so I'll keep it on the feet. He's very good everywhere, but there's no holes as such. There's just certain little things he does that I think if I go out there and do things a certain way, then they'll fall in my favour, without giving too much away, obviously.
And you think you might be able to get the finish in this one? Obviously, it was 2 decisions last year. There's always that carrot of the extra $50,000, and that's usually if you get a finish. Is that something you look for, or is it just if it happens, it happens?
Yeah, obviously, I always try and look for the finish. I mean, the last fight, I really did want to put him away, but when I started looking for subs and trying to rest, I could feel my shoulder was gone, and I was just thinking, I don't want to overexert myself here trying to get a finish, and I've got to defend for the last round with one arm. So it was one of them, I'd have to play it safe a little bit, but I'm definitely going, I always try and go for the finish, especially, hopefully we get a crowd there, and that always adds to the atmosphere and the intensity of the fight. And, make no mistake, I'm not going out there like a wild man, but if the finish presents itself, I'm obviously going to take it, whether that's on the feet or on the ground. And I feel like I'm capable of taking most guys out, anyway. So if I can get him out of there, I will. I very much will, and I will be pushing for that, because I don't like to go to the decision too much. It stresses the missus and the boys out. So I need to start getting them out there early.
Brilliant. And in terms of where the card's meant to take place, it is meant to be in London. So for you, obviously being from Wales, I know it's not home, but it's the best you're going to get at the moment, isn't it? Is this where the perfect scenario for you right now?
Yeah, like I said this to all the lads and at the gym and all my mates. It's like, the closest we are going to get to an hometown fight at the minute is London. We're a bit of a way from me and being able to call for a Cardiff card yet. So everyone's buzzing. Like I said, I've always known on the come up for this guy with a massive following, and whenever I fight, the atmosphere is always through the roof. Whereas my last 3 fights have been behind closed doors with no fans. So it will be nice to get out in front of a crowd again. It's relatively close to home, so there'll be a couple of thousand Welsh going up, providing they can get their hands on those tickets. I'm just looking forward to the walkout, the intros, the weigh-ins. Everything's just a little bit different when you got the crowd there and the atmosphere at the fight more. So it's something I've missed, and it's something I'm looking forward to hopefully going through a couple of times this year.
And when it comes to these cards, obviously you said it's nice to be close to home. Are you someone who also likes to travel? I know a lot of the up and comers are excited to go and fight in New York or Vegas or something like that. Or would you prefer not to do too much traveling?
Like once I'm out there, I don't mind. I don't mind fighting away. Like I don't mind fighting in Vegas. I fought in Abu Dhabi, so I don't mind all that. It's just the initial traveling together. You know, like the day of traveling and then getting over the jet lag and stuff like that. That sort of grinds on me a little bit. You know, I'd fight in London every time if I could. I've experienced Vegas and Abu Dhabi. There's certain ones like Madison Square Garden you want to check off the list, but I would prefer to obviously. If I could get some sort of portal where I could just step in, bang, I'm in Vegas, then I would have no issue fighting in Vegas every 6 weeks. But yeah, it's just it's not so much being away from home and the foreign sort of atmosphere and being in America or being in Abu Dhabi. It's just the initial travel of getting out there that grinds on me. But it will be nice to obviously just be able to jump in the car and a couple of hours later be at the fight hotel and not have to leave home until like the Tuesday of fight week. Stuff like that will just make it a little bit more comfortable, I think.
Absolutely. And they're saying it's in London, but is that confirmed? Like, what are you hearing from the UFC? I know it's not official, and from everything I've seen, it's not official for London. We had a similar situation last year where it seemed to they were making an English card, and then all of a sudden it was elsewhere. What's the noise you're hearing from your manager from the UFC? Is it like we want it in London, but be ready to travel because it might not go to plan?
Yeah, very much so. Like the last time, I think they're very close from what I can make of it. I'm seeing Dana do interviews and stuff. I think they're very close to making it happen, and I'd probably say there's probably 90%, confident it will happen. But at the same time, it was supposed to happen in September, and it was supposed to happen, initially. So it's one of them. It's like it very well could happen, and we're very much hopeful and confident it will. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to get switched up and be like, look, jump on our plane and get out to Fight Island or get out to Vegas. So at the minute, it's out of my hands. Everyone's asking me for tickets and updates, and I'm just as clueless as everyone else. As soon as I get an update, I'll be sure to let people know. But at the minute, we're the same as you. There's no sort of official venue or official location confirmed just yet. But I would like to think we'll know in the next few weeks, because obviously they want to ship tickets out and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems like it's time to get moving on the card. It doesn't seem to have a main event yet. Who do you expect to slip into that slot?
I did see Darren Till and Uriah Hall were talking about fighting, and I also seen Arnold Allen and Dan Hooker is meant to be happening as well. So I mean, either of those would fill in. Oh, my dog's booking off. But yeah, no, sorry about that.
Okay.
But yeah, either of those would fit in lovely to a co-main or a main event. So it's one of them. Like, I think Darren Till is still a big name. I know he's picked up a few losses like in his last two fights, but he's still capable of standing up the O2 in a matter of minutes. And Arnold Allen's the same. I mean, he could very well be 2 fights away from challenging for the UFC title. So, I think he would make a great main event as well. And it'd be nice to see the British guys main event and then co-main event. We don't necessarily need a massive American name or massive star. So yeah, either of those would be great.
Absolutely. And you mentioned just a little bit earlier, it's a bit too early to be talking about dragging the UFC to Wales, but it's got to be at the forefront of your mind, because you are one of the the breakable stars from the area. Do you think you're going to be the man to actually say to Dana, let's go to Cardiff, let's make this happen?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the minute, I know there's 3 of us from Wales in the UFC. I'm in a position at the minute where I'm probably the closest to in those rankings and fighting those big names and becoming a bit of a, getting that chance to finally break through into the mainstream a little bit. So it is something I obviously want to do. At the minute, venue-wise in Wales, we've got like an indoor arena, but it only seats like 8,000, and we've got the Millennium Stadium, which seats 80,000. So we're a bit at 2 ends of the scale at the minute. If they can knock us up like a 20,000 seater, then I can start to get in Dana and so on then. But obviously I'd love to do it, and I'd love to just fight on a UFC card in Wales, but to be the guy that brought it to Wales, like how Conor brought it back to Dublin, or how Bisping took it to Manchester, would be insane. It'd be a dream come true. So who knows what the future holds? Obviously that'd be a dream of mine, and it's never say never. Like it's not too far away. It's just a case of the right timing and things falling into place.
Absolutely. Once all the world gets back to normal, then you can start looking at it, and you might be in a position.
That's it. Yeah.
To do
that
that.
Also helps. We need COVID to do one as well, don't we?
Yeah, right now it just seems like an excuse to stay in Vegas. It's all this going on. No one gets any cards. But first things first, we've got a big year coming up, obviously, to get in that position, to be a star or a headliner. You've got to have a good 2022. So first off, how many fights do you want to have this year?
I'd like to get 3 in an ideal world. You know, I want to be active. I think anything more than 3, it's like it becomes a bit of a rush then in terms of, like I said, like I like a good long 10-week fight camp. So any more than 3 fights, by the time you have your couple of weeks to sort of recover from the fight and the fight camp itself, you know, it starts to become a bit of a rush and a bit of a squeeze it in. But 3 fights would be great if I can get one in now. In March, obviously, then in the summer, then one towards the end of the year, that'd be great. And I'd like to think, you know, I'll be in the rankings, providing I win all 3 of those fights. So yeah, 3 fights and I'll be an happy man. You know, I have 1 in 2020, 2 in 2021. So hopefully we can make it 3 in 2022.
And is that the goal for this year, to work your way towards them rankings and hopefully sneak in by December time?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like to think of a good win year over Valiev, a good performance, especially if I can get him out today and look good doing it. Then I can't see why my next fight wouldn't be for a shot at the rankings. I was meant to fight a ranked guy in January, but obviously the injury prevented it. I wouldn't have been able to recover and get a camp in time for the fight. So I think a win year definitely. Me or him, whoever wins is going to be in a slot, I think, to fight one of those guys, you know, towards the bottom end of the rankings, like 15 to 10. So if I win that one, then there's no reason why I can't push up the ladder a little bit then in my final fight of the year.
And bantamweight is just absolutely flying right now. Like, I'd say there's 25, 30 guys who are all worthy of being, you know, top 15 in the world, but there's just so many people, it's hard to stand out or you know, get into them slots. How do you think you've got to go about kind of standing out in you know, such a stacked division?
I think your performances do the talking, mate. Because I mean, even like look at Sean O'Malley and the fan base he's got and the following. He's got like over 1 million followers. He's pretty much like a celebrity in the US. Yet he's only just managed to get himself ranked. So if it's taking someone with that sort of, you know, pull, that he can pull in so many viewers on the paper. So if it's taking him like 6, 7 fights to get ranked, you know, it just shows how deep the division is. But I think the performances speak for themselves. In terms of the ranking, I know people want the trash talking and want you to be out there, but at the same time, I think to be ranked in the UFC, you've got to be legit and you've got to string a good couple of wins. I think if I'd been about like 4 or 5 years ago, I'd probably be ranked by now, to be honest. But the division's just so deep and so stacked at the minute. Like you said, there's probably 10 guys outside the top 15 that deserve to be ranked, who are not. So it's just one of them. I've got to keep performing. I've got to keep looking good. Keep looking keep putting on these flawless performances, you know, like I've got people like Bisping saying I look like a GSP and stuff like that. So if I can go in there, either put them away or keep these flawless performances where I'm not getting touched and, you know, the only injuries I'm having are the ones I'm carrying into the fight, then I think I'm on my way. It's just a case of, again, right place at the right time, the right fight being available, schedule matching up with the guys in the rankings. But I'm confident by the end of the year I'll be there 100%. You know, where I've always been sort of true to myself, never changed my personality or tried to be someone I'm not. Never tried to be like a Conor McGregor, because that's just not who I am as a person. So I'm confident by the end of the year that the skills and the wins will put me in a slot where people will start taking notice.
Yeah, and in that bantamweight division, we've got 2 guys at the top about to rematch, Peter Yan against Aljamain Sterling. I've got to ask your opinion on that. How do you see it going?
I think Yan wins, but I don't think he'll be as one-sided as the last one. I think Sterling, he generally was a little bit injured going into that last fight, and I think he will make adjustments. So I don't think he's going to come out like a wild man and look for that early finish, because Yan thrives off that. Like Yan starts slow, works you out, and then gets better as the fight goes on, whereas Sterling is more so the opposite. He comes in, he'll try and get you down and choke you out as early as he can. So I don't think he can take that approach with Yan, and I think he does understand that now. I still think Yan takes him out late on in the fight, but I think it'll be a much closer fight, especially the first 3 rounds. So it's an interesting one, you know. It's the only other thing to factor in, obviously, is the activity as well. You know, Yan's fought since their last fight at a barn burner, and it's one of them. Sterling's got a lot of questions to answer, I think, for going this fight for himself and for everyone else, and I'll be interested to see how he approaches it.
Yeah, and them two guys, when you think about your future and when you've made your way to title contention in a couple of years, are these the two guys you're kind of looking at thinking that one of these will probably still have the belt, or is there someone else in bantamweight you thinking by the time I get there, he's going to be the guy?
To be honest, I think anyone in the top 10 is capable of winning the belt. I don't think the belt at the minute is going to stay in one space for too long, because not just because how good they are, there's such a clash of styles as well. You know, like on any other day, Corey Sandhagen could win the belt. You got TJ Dillashaw knocking about. Aldo looks like Aldo's looking like he did 10 years ago. He's looking like a machine. Then you've got guys like obviously O'Malley and Song Yadong and Chico Vera working their way up the rankings. Cody's just gone down to flyweight. I think he's coming back up the bantam, so he's going to be straight in the mix. So it's really hard, to be honest, to tie it down at the minute and think like, right, Sam in title contention in 2 years' time, it'll probably be against this guy, because there's so many good guys from 1 to 10 that any of them on any given day could win the belt. And vice versa, any one of them could pick up a loss as well and be gone out the rankings. So I try not to look too far ahead in that, just because how deep the division is. I think I'm in a position now where every single person I fight for the next 3-4 years are going to be an absolute killer. So it's just a case of focusing on the guy in front of me and not getting too far ahead of myself, because we've seen it over the years. It can happen. You know, you get people get too far ahead of themselves and then they fought that final hurdle. So I'm just going to try and take it one fight at a time, and obviously the closer I get, the more clear of a picture I'll have on who I could potentially fight for the belt.
Absolutely. And first things first, it's Timur Valiev, March 19th, hopefully in London. We're really looking forward to that one, and thanks for making some time for us, Jack. I wish you good luck with training camp and the fight. Can't wait to watch.
Top man, mate. Thank you for having me.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.